All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Thursday, March 7th. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. And Clayton, we are simply the hosts of this show and talk about movies that are coming out. But we are not the stars of a movie that are coming out this weekend. But our guest is the star of this weekend's new release, Cabrini. He's an old favorite, coming back for I think the third time on the show.
Yep.
Wannabe oh boy, Austin is here. Welcome to the show, Austin.
It is so great to be back. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this is going to be such a huge weekend, I think.
Mhm.
There's counter programming up the wazoo this weekend. There's so much for so many different types of audiences to see. I think it's going to be great. I cannot wait to start talking about it with you guys.
All right. I mean, let's get into it. So there's a couple of movies coming out this weekend, but I think let's start with the holdover. Dune 2 last
Okay.
weekend made its what, 81, 82 million dollars,
Yeah.
the double of Dune 1, huge hit. Passed it beat the opening weekend of Oppenheimer. Let's not forget it when the actuals came in, it beat Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, with Kung Fu Panda coming out this weekend, with Cabrini coming out, can Dune 2 hold on to the number one spot? How big is that drop going to be? So, Austin, right off the bat, what do you feel are the dangers here for Dune 2? Do you think it's in danger of, a 55, 60% drop? Could we see something that bad? Or do we think the Oppenheimer sort of 42% drop is in sight?
I think definitely there is clearly so much hype around this movie, and I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm
Mhm.
not like a big sci-fi guy, so I'm not really like I don't have a ton of bias here with this one. I'm just looking at it from if you look at like the dailies this week, this thing has been playing like crazy. It's been
Mhm.
playing a lot like the other early March big Warner Brothers movie, The Batman, which only
Mhm.
dropped like 50% in its second weekend. And if anything, I think it's playing even better. Just
Mhm.
looking at it from like a daily hold perspective. And it's like there's like the big thing with this one is that it is you need to see it in IMAX, you need to
Mhm.
see it in Dolby, you need to see it in any kind of premium large format. I know the 70 millimeter, like the Lincoln Square at like 3 in the morning, people are going to. It's insane. Like you cannot get a ticket to this in any other kind of like in any big format to see it in. So just by looking at that, like like all the extra prices that's going to have, and I think it's shaping up for like a 40 to 45% drop. It might even hold better than Oppenheimer. I think people are kind of calling it at like not to jump ahead. Like
Yeah,
Panda's
yeah,
going
no,
to do
go
like
for it.
50 million plus, and Dune 2 is going to make like 38. I think this could be like really close for number one, and like I think Dune could do like 45 to 50. It might pull out 50. I mean, the big advantage that this has too is that like these weekdays are great, but these are also weekdays in like early March. This isn't
Right.
summer where people have off, people have more vacation time, people have kids are off of school. Like this is early March where the weather's still kind of shitty and
Yep.
people are going to kind of save their free time more for the weekend.
Yep.
So I think there's just this could have a really really impressive hold. And I like I said, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not even coming in with like, oh, this is like my favorite movie of the year and it's going to do so great and blah, blah, blah. Like this is just going to have a really spectacular hold based off of the PLFs, based off of the you need to see it factor, and
Mhm.
yeah, based off of I cannot get away from this movie. Like
Yes.
everyone is talking about it. I now I need to see it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
even like I said it before, I don't like these kinds of movies. Really, I'm
Right.
not a big
This movie
sci-fi.
is your competition this weekend. You're
Yeah,
one of the stars of Cabrini,
Mm-hmm.
and
yeah,
yet you still feel compelled to go see your competition. That shows
yeah.
just the hold that Dune 2 has over everyone's psyches right now.
Yeah. And Austin, I think you hit on something huge when you said this is you're hearing so much about it that now it's a must see. So
Yeah.
all the people who thought, I really didn't like the first one, or I'm not a sci-fi person, they held off and they thought, oh, I probably won't see it. Then they hear the word of mouth. It's all anybody's talking about. And now it's a must see.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with this. Is going to hold very well. You also hit on a great thing about the PLFs and the ticket pricing here. I was just talking to somebody the other day who's going to see it in 70 millimeter and hasn't seen it yet because they couldn't get tickets. So that is a factor here, is that there are people that are going to see this down the line when there's an availability to see it in the best format possible. Now, speaking of, we were talking last episode, last weekend, big weekend for young Hollywood. Obviously, the Dune opening with all those young stars, Sydney Sweeney hosting SNL, Glenn Powell making a little cameo there, popping in, getting a huge pop. As a part of young Hollywood, star of Cabrini, how has this time been for you? Is it exciting? Is this an exciting time for young Hollywood like we feel it? Well, I mean, we're old guys, so we don't know, but young Hollywood, how's it feel?
Oh my God, it's incredible. I love this. I grew up, like I was in my teens to 20s in the 2010 period where it's like, yeah, I followed all the shit. Like, cause when I was a kid, I followed all of it. I loved all the stars and all that and all the Hollywood, all that. And yeah, in the 2010s, there was a real lack of like, who's a marquee draw? Like, is it still, the stars that we had in the 2000s? Because they were starting to kind of wane a little bit. A lot of our big megastars, I think a lot of them are starting to come back a little bit now. We're getting nostalgic for our old stars. And I think you're seeing a good crop of young stars, young actors and actresses. Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet, Florence Pugh, Austin Butler. Austin Butler I think that Elvis movie really did like a huge number for, just making him a rising star for not just like my generation, but older generations too. I mean,
Yes. My mom loves
that
Austin
guy
Butler.
now. Everybody
She's still
loves
mad that
Timothy
he lost to
Chalamet.
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, I know that was
Yeah. She's still mad about that because Austin Butler emerged as a new young hunk for all generations.
Yeah.
And did you see that it just came out I think today or yesterday, Timothy Chalamet said he wants Austin Butler to play Elvis in his Bob Dylan biopic.
That would be sick.
That's the sort of
Wow.
thing. You have these young stars repping for each other, wanting to be in each other's movies, saying, "Oh, I worked with this person before and now I want to work with them again." Like that, there's a system happening. They're creating this star system again, where you're gonna see Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet in another movie together that is not sci-fi because they did so well in this movie. I mean, that's what we need. We need those personalities to be the crossovers, not the characters. It's about the stars crossing over.
Yes. You want to see the stinger for a movie just be Chalamet showing up in an Austin Butler movie as Chalamet, not as Wazoo Man, who's some 10th character from a comic book that published in the 70s.
Yeah. It's like when Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling did movies together. You were excited that they were going to be in movies again together because you liked them in whatever it was. I mean, they were in Gangster Squad and Crazy Stupid Love. And those are two wildly diverse movies. One was a big hit, one was a bomb, but still, it was about seeing them together. And then when they did La La Land, it really hit its peak. We loved it. That's what we need, and that's what looks like is going to be happening.
Right.
I think a lot of these actors too, a lot of them are really smart. Like they're being extremely smart about what they're picking. I think they're cultivating like I don't want to talk about these people like they're brands, but you look at a lot of the 2000s, a lot of those big name actors, I always go to, I'm like, oh yeah, Sandler, Will Smith, George Clooney. Like they had a brand of Sandra Bullock. They had brands of like who they were, and they had a trust in the audience of, I'm going to see this movie. I know I'm at least going to get something of quality when you go to George Clooney. And I know like they had some bombs too, but like,
you knew what a Clooney big movie was. You knew what The Descendants.
Will Smith. Like, I think like, whatever now, but back in the 2000s, his run, I think you knew the brand of what you were going to get. You knew it was going to be a quality version because you liked to watch that person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And a lot of these actors, that's what they're doing now. That's what Austin Butler's doing. My mom can't wait to see The Bike Riders, which is wild to me.
That's huge.
Yeah, because he's in it. And because it's kind of almost like it's not an extension of Elvis, but it's kind of in the same ballpark.
It's a James Dean situation. I mean, another sort of beautiful rebel from the 50s, Yeah, and of course, I mean, I love that. I mean, I know saying branding and stuff feels
it's a little
gross,
but I think like personalities, like Mel Gibson had a type of movie that you could expect from him. And they all tried different things and they all tried different accents at different points. But for the most part, there was a type of movie you'd get from Stallone. You would get from Cameron Diaz, the big stars gave you a type of thing that you liked. So when you call it brand personality, that is what these new actors have to develop in lieu of, okay, I'm just gonna play banana guy for 7 movies.
Yeah, and that's and I wasn't saying that to denigrate what you said, because branding is like is how we now use, there's a vernacular now where you say branded, and we of course know Sandra Bullock, her brand is Crisis. That was huge for her, but absolutely. I mean, you're nailing it right there, Austin, with just making smart decisions and picking the right films, and there being films available to pick is huge, and that needs to continue.
So back to Dune 2's weekend coming up. Do we know, is it going to be losing any of the PLFs to any of these new movies? Like Kung Fu Panda 4 isn't getting IMAX screens from Dune 2, I wouldn't think. Like, I'm sure it'll get some good auditoriums, it's a big new movie. But I think Dune 2 probably holds on to all the IMAXs, all the rumble seat theaters, the Dolbys, right? I mean, it's a kids movie. You also could throw it in a garage on a VHS and the kids will watch it. So I don't think it's going to lose any of these PLFs.
I mean, it's certainly not losing that 70 millimeter IMAX for sure. I mean, I think this is an Oppenheimer situation where, sell that out as many weekends as you can.
Right. If Tom Cruise couldn't get the IMAXs from an Oppenheimer, Kung Fu Panda is not getting the IMAXs from Dune 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I agree. I think the hold is going to be really strong. And I think, 50 would be crazy, but I do think mid to high 40s for the opening weekend is in reach. We talked about a lot last week, Clayton, that it's the type of movie that people are going to wait to see until they could see it on the best screen possible. So there's a lot of people who probably wanted to go last weekend, couldn't get a good ticket, so they're going to go this weekend instead. I think it's that type of movie. So
real quick, sorry, not to interrupt, but it looks like Kung Fu Panda is going to have a partial PLF footprint.
Okay.
So it's looking like it'll have some. But not all. I mean, Dune 2 is going to own the PLF still.
Yeah,
we need more PLFs. It's crazy that Dune 2 in the second weekend will lose a single PLF. There should have been more than enough to give Kung Fu Panda his footprint, but have him not step on Dune 2.
You should be able to have sand blown in your face and also fake fart smell.
Yes.
Yeah, like for Kung Fu Panda 4. I mean, these things should be able to be experienced at the same time in different PLFs.
Yes. Yes, 100%. What movie did I see recently where I heard Dune 2 playing clearly on the other side of the wall? What movie could that have been?
You went to see Bob Marley One Love.
I did. I saw Bob Marley One Love on the Friday that Dune 2 was opening, and that is what I heard clearly on the other side of that wall was Dune 2. And it's always interesting when you're in that auditorium where you kind of feel like, oh, the party's happening over there.
Yeah, that's how I went last Friday and I saw Madam Web instead of Dune.
Oh.
And that was pretty funny. Yeah, that was a lot of
how was that experience? Like, I actually haven't talked to many people. I mean, you can tell by the box office who have seen that movie in the movie theater. What was that like?
Well, a couple people left,
mm-hmm.
like halfway through, and I went and I fell asleep like for a good chunk of that movie, and I'm not gonna say it's like hard to make me like nod off in movies, but like I was knocked for a solid like 30 minutes of that movie.
Wow.
And like I had the Regal card thing, so it was free, so I really didn't care. I was like, oh yeah, whatever.
Right. It's a free sleep.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it was like, whatever. But that was, oh man, that was, I didn't even think it was gonna be that bad. I was like, oh, like whatever. It's probably just like kind of boring, and it's really freaking bad. Like I was genuinely surprised at like how bad it was. Like in a way where I was just like wasn't expecting. I was like, oh, like the acting is really shoddy from everybody. The
Right.
effects are like a joke. Like it's, and I don't want to. This isn't a review show.
No, we're not critics, huh? Yeah.
No, we're not critics.
Huh.
But like I was like, I can't even believe that made like what's it at, like 45 million?
Right.
Like,
it finally passed
$45 million worth of people spent money to see this.
Yeah. It finally passed the opening weekend of Morbius, which is an amazing way of looking at just how quickly the comic book movies have fallen, and we're not going to get stuck talking about those. But just the fact that Morbius, when it opened, was a disastrous opening weekend, and now
40, right?
it made like 39 or 40, and it took Madam Web like 4 weeks to get to that opening week. Anyway, it's just a disaster.
Well, Pat, also we are going to go there. Let's put a pin in this because we're going to talk about an email that we got.
Ooh.
And I think
we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
We haven't done this in a really long time.
Is Daddy coming home?
Daddy's home.
Yeah. We might.
Daddy's home in Austin. You're going to be here for when Daddy gets home.
Yeah.
You'll get to meet Daddy.
Yeah.
So that'll be a big email that we'll go over at the end of this episode. Let's move on to the big release of this weekend, Kung Fu Panda 4. Are we ready to talk about what we think of this panda? I mean, it's the fourth movie in a series that has done really well, but every movie has opened lower than the one before it. So do we think that, box office wise is trending down, but slightly? Nothing's fallen off a cliff in any way. But do we have any reason to think that the momentum is changing going into part 4? The third one opened in 2016 to 41 million after 60, 47, then 41. Those are the three opening weekends. Why does it seem that people are predicting this will do better than the third one? Like, where is the uptick here? And I think, Clayton, I feel like I know what you're going to say. So if you want to say it, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just get it over with, I guess.
Yeah, get it over with.
Pat, is that Jack Black.
Okay.
Is way bigger now than he was when the third one came out.
Okay.
I think he's beloved by kids more because of the fact that he started doing kids movies. Yeah. And Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
Those sort of things. He's more a kids movie star than he's ever been.
Okay.
Also, the rats need their cheese now more than ever. They've had nothing since Migration. And I do think that the pent up need for some brie, which I still think this is brie, is going to be right. This is brie when it comes to
this is a premium
franchise.
There's no individual slices of Kung Fu Panda 4.
And I think with the strength of something like Dune 2 driving people to the theater in general, I think this is going to make that movie bigger than the third one. I do predict it opens bigger than the third one. Not by much, but it still does.
All right. So what about you, Austin? I mean, this isn't exactly your target. You're not the target demo for Kung Fu Panda. You're kind of in the worst demo in the sense that you're probably too old to want to watch it yourself. And then you're way too young and in your prime to have a young family. So this probably isn't your exact cup of tea, but do you feel like Kung Fu Panda 4 is trending upwards in popularity?
Well, the thing is that like I think the thing that could help this is that this is kind of the perfect age of a franchise where my demographic, like I'm 25, I'm going to be 26 in a little bit, but my demographic grew up with these movies and we're kind of just at that age to be like nostalgic for it.
Okay.
And I think a lot of those like 2000s, like the first movie, I saw the first movie in theaters. I was 9 going on like just about to be 10. The
Mhm.
second movie came out when I was 12, about to be 13. I think I saw that one, and I know definitely didn't see the third one because I think I was
Yeah.
in like high school when that one
Yep.
came out. But I think we're at a stage where it's like the Minions thing, where it's like I was like 10,
Wow.
11
Okay.
when that first one came out, and this whatever the new one is comes out when I'm like 24, 25, and you see a lot of kids who are even younger than like me who are going to see it because it's something they grew up with, it's something they liked, and there's more of a drive I think now to be like nostalgic for that. And I think there
Mhm.
in general there's more of a following for like people my age to be more into animation. And I think they give more, and obviously that's more like adult animation, like you guys are talking about, like how anime is so popular. But I think it's also stuff like this is like, oh yeah, I grew up with that. I was nostalgic for it. I'm old enough where it's like not weird for me to like go to like see, like I'm not going to see people from school are going to be here. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's like a certain type of person I think now that's more prevalent in my age demographic where it's like, oh, like I loved these movies when I was a kid. It's been so many years since the last movie. I'll go see the new one. Why the hell not? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I'm not going to. Like I really don't care, but
Right.
there definitely is, and maybe it's just like from social media and stuff. But I'm like, yeah, I could tell there's like adult like fans who were kids when the first movie came out, and they want to see what this new one is because it's been so long. Like, and there's a lot of franchises like that too. Like, I think whenever they get around to doing another Shrek, it
Oh,
is
I mean,
going
that's
to
gonna
be so like an
yes.
actual Shrek movie, like a
Yeah.
Hmm.
Shrek
Star Wars
5.
big. Yeah.
Oh my, that might be the first movie to ever break $1 billion domestic. I'm
Yeah.
not even kidding. Like,
No, it's
it
good.
is
That
going
would be massive. Yeah.
so big, and that's all from people I think like nostalgic people like in my age range, like who were 8, 9, 10 in the 2000s,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so that could work. But the thing with that too is that I think this movie it has good review. Like I've seen like the review scores for all of the new movies, and
Mhm.
this has like okay reviews, but it's kind of just like a kids movie. Yeah, like I'm sure like I have a couple nephews, and I'm sure they'd love it.
Right.
Like it's not like oh this is going to be something that older people like you know what I mean. Like it's not something
Yeah,
that's
it's
going to be
not gonna
like
be
super
Spider-Man
word of
Across the
mouth.
Spider-Verse, and it's not
Yeah,
gonna be
Puss
I
in
mean,
Boots is like a
Shrek
big
would
one
be
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
Shrek would be the perfect example of an animated movie that adults would go to see. I mean, I think Shrek comes out and it is 40 and 50-year-olds are going to see
yeah.
that en masse, and 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, like kids. That would be a gigantic cultural event that
well, even Gen Xers like me, because
and
we
me, yeah,
Mike Myers. Well, not you, because you're millennial, but
right.
Mike
Graduated college the same
Myers,
year, yeah,
Mike Myers, who I remember from SNL, and you
right.
probably remember from The Love Guru because you're a millennial. I mean, big. He's a big star for us Gen Xers. So
Right.
to have Shrek come out, like I think that is even big for us,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
by us I mean me.
Me too. Yes, of course. Yeah,
But all of us, because it's all generational, including millennials. Yeah,
right,
which is
right.
you.
Who yeah, my sister's a millennial and I'm of course Gen X. But
I don't know
so
anything about your sister.
so yeah, Kung Fu Panda 4 is purely a kids play. I mean, and the thing I keep going back to is that and Clayton's thing is that Jack Black is a bigger draw than he was in
Yeah.
2016. Is that going to actually add up to millions? Because the thing going against Kung Fu Panda 4 is that franchises, unless there is a big value add or something, they do decline over time after the second or third movie for sure. The fourth movie is very rarely the biggest of a franchise. You don't see that with the Pirates of the Caribbean or Shrek or things like that. So I, my thing is, I think this is going to be huge. It's going to do great, but I don't see higher than 41 or 42 in this in this weekend. That's just where I'm at. You know, I think it'll do
But
well.
what
The
did you
Charlize
say the
Theron
third? Oh, what did the movie the third one open to?
41. I just
so
don't
it's
think
gonna be
go
bigger than the
higher.
third one.
I don't think so.
But you just
I'm
said
not feeling-
41. You just said 41. If it's 41 or 42, it's bigger than the
Yeah,
third
I mean, it's the
one.
same thing. What I'm saying is I think it'll do around what the third one did or less. I think more likely less than higher.
So you think this could open in the 30s, the high 30s, a movie where kids are starved.
I think it could do as
for
low
content.
as 39. I'd be surprised if it's lower than that, but I think it's around 39 to 42, 43. I think that's where this is.
Okay, all right. I mean, but still, that would be
Oh,
great.
it's good. Of course. I'm not. Listen, I'm not. I'm nitpicking.
You are. Yes, thank you.
I am.
You are
I am
nitpicking.
I think it's going to do great. I just don't see where it's going to do better than the third one.
Well, if we're talking about over time and like cumulative.
Oh, definitely not cumulative.
I don't think cumulative.
Weekend.
I'm talking opening weekend,
No,
and
no,
I
I know.
think that this goes over number 3 in the opening weekend. Austin, I mean, we'll give our real numbers at the end.
Give our real numbers later.
How are you feeling, Austin? Do you agree with me, or are you on Pat's side?
I agree with you, Clayton.
And it's not sides, you know, but
this probably lands somewhere because I think the first one, I just looked up all these numbers. It was like one did like 60, 2 was like 48, but I think that was like a holiday weekend too, and 3 was 41. I know like all the trades are pushing this at like 50 plus, and like I follow a lot of like inside kind of BO guys who track like the actual ticket sales on like Twitter and Reddit and all that, and they're saying like 50 is probably not happening, like maybe like high 40s, which is kind of where I'm thinking too. I'm like, this probably lands like 50 just seems so high for a movie that, like I said, like the big thing for me was like the reviews are fine, but they're all like 3 out of 5. Like it's like fine for your kids. I think if it was truly like really good and it could get word of mouth, like Puss in Boots or Spider-Verse or anything like that, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, this is going to get propelled to like 55 plus in its opening weekend. But it's not going to have that word of mouth, and I think it's going to probably land somewhere in like 45. Like I'd go 45 and under over like 50. Like I don't see this hitting like 50 anytime soon.
I think there'll be an interesting choice for a lot of families where they have a child who is 10 to 12 or 13, you know, still that age where the kid goes to the movie with a parent, but they would be able to take them to Dune 2, or, you know, the parent would be able to convince themselves that this is an okay decision to take them to Dune 2 because the parent really wants to see it. And Kung Fu Panda 4 is not Shrek, a type of movie that the parent would also want to see. You know, Kung Fu Panda 4, if you're a parent who's, you know, in your 30s or 40s
or guardian,
parent or guardian, you probably don't really want to see Kung Fu Panda 4. And so I do think there will be that debate if you are the parent or guardian of like a 12-year-old of can't we just go see Dune 2 instead of this? And I think that might be what tips the box office to what's number 1 and what's number 2. I think that'll be a big part of it.
Well, Pat, as you know, the state of parenting nowadays is not like it was when we were a kid, where, say, a parent would drag their child, no matter what age, to Natural Born Killers because that's what they wanted to see.
Yes,
kids rule the household now. I'm not going to be judgmental about it. I'm not going to say that's good or bad, but I'm saying it's a fact.
Yeah.
And so there ain't no parents who are going to say, that's it, I'm putting my foot down, we're going to see Dune 2. They're going to say, well, I guess if they want to see Kung Fu Panda 4, I'm going to have to see that, right?
Yeah.
That is the state of parenting right now. Again, not judging it, just stating it.
Right. So let's go to another movie that I think is not going to be a movie that parents and kids go to. This is a real teen and 20-something play. There's a horror movie opening this weekend, guys. Blumhouse has this movie Imaginary opening this weekend. So it's from from Jeff Wadlow, the director of Truth or Dare, which was we saw that in the theater together, right, Clayton? Did we see Truth or Dare?
Yes, and we're still playing the game because at the end of that movie, not to spoil it, fuck it, it's a raw feed. We became part of the game.
Right. Right. I gotta rewatch the ending of that movie, not the whole movie, but I do remember them saying something along those lines. That movie opened to $18 million in April of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And went on its way to gross $40 million. So, we talk about how the rats need their cheese, but the gorehounds need their gruel, they need their blood. And we haven't had a big breakout horror movie in this winter season yet, right? Am I missing something? We
No.
haven't had a Megan, and not that Megan was hard horror, but we haven't had a Megan. We haven't had a Talk to Me. So the gorehounds are starving too. So what do we think of this? I mean, Austin, this feels like a movie that's more in your target demo. This is going after the teens, the 20-year-olds, the people who are going on dates. Have you been hearing buzz about Imaginary, or am I making that up like an imaginary friend?
At first, I did. Like, they put out a really dope teaser for this movie. I didn't see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but I saw the trailer where it's like a blank screen and it's all just like the noise of the trailer, like just the audio. And it's like you need to imagine what the thing is. And it was so cool. And I guess it got a really good reaction and it started building up buzz. But just everything since, and I'm not calling for anyone's head when I say this, but Lionsgate has been really bad at marketing their movies lately because this isn't a Universal Blumhouse movie.
Yep.
Apparently, they rejected it. Lionsgate picked it up. Like, it's like they just cannot build buzz for like any of their movies. They just bombed out 2 weeks ago with Normal Angel or Ordinary Angels or whatever that was. They're gonna bomb out probably next week with the Mark Wahlberg dog movie. Like, Lionsgate, I think they just really don't know how to like market a lot of these movies. And this imaginary movie, I'm like, at first it kind of picked up some steam. And I think a movie like this should be an easy 15 million opening. I mean, it's a horror movie. It's PG-13, right? Yeah.
Yes.
PG-13 horror movie, high concept. It looks fine. Like, it doesn't look that bad, but just they can't really build buzz for any of these movies. Like, this thing a couple weeks ago, I would have said, yeah, 12, 13, maybe even 15 million if it's any good. Now I'm like, I don't think this gets to double digits. I don't even think.
Wow.
Yeah, I think this thing, there's like nothing really going for it. There's no buzz. There's no reviews. There's like little trickles on Twitter that I've heard. I've heard it's horrible. And, Jeff Wadlow, reviews don't really matter for something like this, but they kind of do. Like, I really don't think people are going to waste time to go see this movie that already didn't have that much buzz if it's not even very good. You know what I mean? There's not even like Madam Web, ironic, I'm going to see this and laugh at it kind of movie.
Right.
Like, this is just like, why would I waste, you're thinking your average person, your average like teenager too, who doesn't have AMC A-List or Regal Unlimited. Like, are you really going to spend $15 to go see this movie that no one's talking about, no one cares about, that you barely even know is coming out, that is apparently horrible? Like, what are the positives for this movie other than, there is a certain audience that will just go see every horror movie. And it's not going to be like a total disaster. This isn't like a Cry Macho, I don't think.
No.
I'm like, what are the pros and cons of each movie this weekend? And I'm like, what are the why would anyone see this? Like, other than it's a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think this is the movie that's going to be hurt the most by Dune being as strong as it is that the teens are going to want to see the stars that they love in a big movie. If this came out on a slow weekend, or if it came out 4 weeks from now when Dune's not in theaters, this might do better. I think, it's PG-13. The other thing about it, and I'm not a critic, is that, it's about a stuffed animal, not an imaginary friend. An imaginary friend is Drop Dead Fred. Imaginary friend is somebody you create in your mind that no one else can see. this is stuffed animal is maybe possessed, maybe alive. That's different than an imaginary friend. And I know that's, that's splitting hairs here, but if that's the sort of thing this movie got wrong, what else did it get wrong? It doesn't
Right.
seem like a quality product to
Yeah.
me. And
Right.
being PG-13, that's weak soup. That's thin soup for these gore hounds and these gore heads. It's really just going to be teens who want a dark theater where maybe there's not a ton of people, so they can, whatever. I'm not going to go
Have
into
relations.
it
Yeah, of
because
course.
yes. Well, I wasn't going to go that strong with it, but I guess you
I
already
went
said it.
there.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
you
a,
went there.
I've got that shock in me. So
Get out the caution tape. Where's Brett?
So, yeah, I think that is a problem that it's called imaginary and it's not about an imaginary friend. I think that is a type of thing that people are going to snark on, and there is value. There's value in either doing an actual movie about an imaginary friend or doing a movie about a possessed bear. And I don't get, especially in the wake of Megan, why they didn't just lean more into, or Five Nights at Freddy's, which is possessed animatronics, lean into, this bear is called Chauncey. That's what I'm seeing in the summation of the film. Why didn't they? I bet you there was a moment in development where this project was called Chauncey,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason they switched it. And the only hope this movie would have had of breaking out is if Chauncey was really cool, like Megan, like Freddie Fazbear, and Chauncey got some buzz, and Chauncey was on TikToks, and Chauncey was something that people were going to dress up as going into opening weekend. So I put the blame for this movie. It's not on Jeff Wadlow. I don't even think, well, I guess it's on Lionsgate because to me, it's on Chauncey. Chauncey just is, if this movie opens to like 6 million, Chauncey is a total failure.
Yeah. Chauncey's going to get drummed out of Hollywood the same
Yeah.
way we had to drum out Lyle Crocodile.
Yes.
I mean, that amphibian reptile, whatever it is still banging at the gates of Hollywood, trying to get back in. And
not coming in.
nope.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, if this opens to 6, opens to 7, and Chauncey tries to go hang out, at the table with Freddie Fazbear, Jason, Chucky, of course, in the high chair. And Art the Clown, they're gonna be like, get the hell out of here. They're not even, it's not even worth them mutilating him because Chauncey's so pathetic.
Yes. Yeah. He's already dead. He just doesn't even know it.
Yeah. That's the most damning kill is when Jason takes the mask off and says that to Chauncey's face. And they're just like, man, Jason, it's got some sick burns.
Wicked burn.
So that is I was going to call it Chauncey. That's imaginary. I think we all agree it's not going to do much, but let's get into the other big new release of this weekend, co-starring you, Austin. There's an Angel Studios co-produced film coming out this weekend, based on the life of Mother Cabrini. So, this is big for me as an Italian. Mother Cabrini, Italian immigrant saint. There's schools in Brooklyn named after Cabrini that I played in CYO basketball. So this movie, I've got to see this. This means a lot to me personally. So Austin, let's start by, what is your involvement? Last time you were here, you told us about Slap Straight, which I watched on Tubi. Excellent film, co-starring you. What is your role in Cabrini?
Okay, so Cabrini, I am a featured extra in it, so not a star, as I'm not,
he's so modest
based on everything, but I'm in a couple good scenes in it. I'm specifically in a couple scenes, and I'm a factory worker at a warehouse. You could actually see me in the trailer for a second. I'm carrying a ladder. So it was a really fun shoot. We shot it a couple of years ago. It was one of the last big movies to come to Buffalo, where I'm located. So it was a really fun shoot. And this movie, that's my involvement with it personally. So I don't really have any bias at this movie. I can talk about this movie from a box office perspective from now.
Okay.
And this movie, I think, is going to do really, really well. I think the marketing has been really strong on it. Angel Studios now, I don't care either way. about, Christian films, if they lean a little too heavily into that, if they don't, whatever. But I do think there is absolutely a market for this kind of Christian film that everyone can see. That is more just like, a movie for older audiences, regardless of which way you kind of lean and which religion you kind of adhere to. I think it's just a good old fashioned drama. The trailers sell it really well. I think to the untrained eye, we know this is not from a heavy hitter studio or from a heavy hitter direct. This isn't for like an Oscar contender, but I think to your grandparents, your parents, this could be something that you see that trailer and you're like, oh, that looks really quality. This could be really quality acting, really quality production. Like it looked. I was surprised. I was like, oh, this actually does look like a pretty engrossing little drama. And Angel Studios is doing so well at marketing this right now too. They're putting they did their whatever Lionsgate is doing right now is like this is the opposite of that. They're being so savvy with it. They're putting it out on International Women's Day. They're leaning into the feminist angle of it all. That's literally all about like honor the woman of the film. Like there's so much that they're doing to kind of promote and push this movie. And they're selling it with all these different pull quotes in the last trailer about how incredible it is and how the performances are fantastic. One of the pull quotes in the trailer in big bold letters is like Oscar caliber. And you could argue who are these pull quotes from, whatever. Are these actual critics or is this just Joe? You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's got a good Rotten Tomato score right
does.
now.
I was surprised about that
too. It seems
too.
like no matter what, it's not going to be something that is a bad movie.
Yeah, I think that goes
that's
along
not
with
going to happen.
It's got like a 93%. Like the guy from the Hollywood Reporter liked it. The guy from Variety liked it. Like the trades like this movie. That goes a long way for these Christian movies. These movies that, they're not all. I've long argued that I think there is absolutely a market for stuff like Miracles from Heaven or Heaven is for Real. It's just they need to be a Hollywood production. They cannot. That's why so many. What was the not Angel Studios, but the other studio that was just pumping out crap year after year, and they were all making like 1 to 2 million.
The studio that did
Pureflix, yeah,
Pureflix,
God's
yeah.
Not Dead people. They were pumping out movies like nonstop, with the usual suspects, and they were making like 2 to 3 million a pop, which is like fine for whatever that. But if you want to make like real money with these movies, I think you need to put some caliber of production level in it, some caliber of star. Like you got to put people like Greg Kinnear and Jennifer Garner and all that. And Cabrini has John Lithgow as their big get, but still like that's at least is entrusting to the audience of that. Yeah, this is an actual production. This is something for older people. It's not just for the church buses.
Yeah. Well, this is a thing that Mark Wahlberg tried with Father Stew.
Yeah.
But I think that was a little early. I do think I watched Father Stew.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this movie is a Hollywood level production. It was. And it might not have been a great movie, but it was the sort of thing that had that caliber of actor that these movies need to have in order to get the sort of traction in popular culture. And I think something like Cabrini is now in the wake of something like Father Stew, and people are sort of ready for it. They now know there's a difference in quality between the stuff they used to watch and the stuff that they can watch now. And I think that's a huge deal. Like something like Cabrini getting 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, that's not what religious movies normally get. That's not what Left Behind gets. That's not your Kirk Cameron movies, Fireproof or whatnot. Those movies did not get that. And Kirk Cameron is not, John Lithgow.
Right.
And so I do think that you have to have these quote unquote respectable actors who are willing to do these movies because they're good quality scripts, despite the fact that they might have religious bent to them.
Right. And I think these movies like a Cabrini or like a Jesus Revolution.
Yeah, that was the other big one.
Kelsey Grammer.
That's a big one. Kelsey Grammer. And I think those movies, whether that's how they play out for real or at least in the marketing, they don't come off as abrasive to non super religious people as those Kirk Cameron type movies did, which those
Mm-hmm.
were very evangelizing. And of course, all of these are going to have some level of evangelizing in them. But I don't think that is at the forefront in these movies as you did in the Kirk Cameron era of super religious, if you're not a believer, you're screwed,
Yeah.
which is a tough sell beyond the church bus audience. So I think something like
Yeah.
Cabrini, here's something, I haven't seen the film, but just looking at the summation of it, something I think is going to play is they talk about how Cabrini, the missionary, later saint, the main character, when she goes to New York, she faces sexism and anti-Italianism. And here's why I think that's huge is, as an Italian American,
So
Italian
Italian.
Americans love to be able to complain about people wronging Italians. We listen, we love bitching and moaning about the FBI, forever bothering Italians. It's etched in a wooden plate on the top of every Italian old lady's kitchen is forever bothering Italians. They hate the FBI, but also non-Italians love seeing Italians being goofed on and exploited. So I think a movie like this, that's a big tent right there. Is Italians get to go and be like, I can't believe what they do to Italians. And then everyone else gets to go and say, this is great how
Good.
they're doing this to Italians.
Yeah,
So
this is good.
I think that's huge. And this movie's set in New York City, and everyone wants to see New York City, whether it's modern times and everyone's working in a magazine, or it's 19th century and it's someone trying to become a saint. I think New York City is not usually the setting for these type of movies. So I think that is a nice little added draw for this movie.
Yeah, there's a tenement museum that does Baffa walk-ins. I don't know what you call a museum, like what the tickets for museums would be.
Yeah.
But there's going to be tenements in this, right?
There's going to be tenements for sure. There's going to be tenements. Did you, when you were filming this movie, Austin, did you film near any tenement sets?
I don't believe that I personally did, but this was like a month and a half, 2 month long shoot. So
right.
They probably did film near some tenements that I just was not a part of at the time.
So do we all think, okay, we're going to give our top fives, but I feel like we're feeling more confident in this
than Imaginary.
And I mean, the projections obviously are Imaginary did have more marketing behind it. It's probably going to have more screens. But I mean, do we want to get into our top fives? Because I feel like the two big matchups this weekend are Dune 2 versus Kung Fu Panda 4 and Imaginary versus Cabrini.
Well, Pat,
I think those are possible, could go either way. What do you got, Clayton?
Well, I think just as the trailer for Madam Web teased the Sydney Sweeney in a Spider-Woman costume, I think we need to do our top fives after we talk about this email.
Okay, so we want to go into the email. Before we do that, Austin, anything else you want to say about Cabrini, your experience? I mean, you're being very modest. You called it a featured cameo, a featured extra. But you know who's a featured extra in Dune 2? Anya Taylor-Joy. So you've got the Anya Taylor-Joy part in Cabrini. And Anya Taylor-Joy, she gets credit for Dune 2 being a big hit. It's going to help her when Furiosa opens. So when Cabrini overperforms this weekend, take the accolades. That's all I'm saying. Is accept it. It's on the resume when you're negotiating your next quote for a movie. The quote should be affected by what Cabrini does this weekend.
Yeah, you can claim this box office. You can claim this box office. You will have box office. So what is your call to arms for all the wanna-be-o boys, wanna-be-o girls, wanna-be-o people to go see Cabrini this weekend to add to your box office tally that is just starting?
Yeah, you will be holding a ladder. So our fans could go see this movie, and it's guaranteed Austin will be holding a ladder on screen.
Yeah.
So take it away, Austin.
I think I haven't seen the film yet myself, but I've heard it's really great. At least a lot of people I've worked on it with. A lot of the other featured actors in this movie are a lot of really great actors, like local actors from my area. They all really love it. And I really do think it just looks like a solid drama. It doesn't look like an overly preachy Christian movie. One of the things I noticed, it was great. The one trailer is set to like "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." That song, like it literally opens. She's on the boat, and all you hear is da na 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 na.
Yeah,
Which I think is great. That's the
great.
kind of marketing all of these movies need. Like it just looks solid. It looks good for older people. It looks engrossing for even like younger people who are kind of into this history thing. It's the kind of movie where if you are so bored by just the nonsense spectacle of like Madam Web and like, I know Dune is great spectacle too, but that kind of stuff where it's nonsense. It's just, visual effects on the screen. This will be something that's a little bit slower paced that you can enjoy the acting, you can enjoy the production design, you can enjoy the actual story and the history of the characters and all that. And so, maybe it won't be for everybody, but I'd say just go check it out. See what you can do with that.
All right. So everyone check out Cabrini starring Austin. So let's see. Clayton, I think it's time to perhaps let Daddy in the house. Do you want to read this email, or are you too frothing in the mouth to read it, and you'd prefer I read it? It's up to you.
No, I can read through the froth. I think that'll help. Now, this is a email from wannabe boy Mike. Now, we love all our wannabe boys, wannabe girls, wannabe people.
And we love Mike.
And we love Mike. So keep this in mind. This is what we call tough love, Mike.
Yeah.
Because if we did not love you, we would not be doing this.
Yeah.
The title of this email is a quote quoting us. There were no stars made in the superhero era. End quote. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Austin
Sorry.
consented already. Yeah.
Yeah.
He knows what's coming.
Yeah. Sorry, BO boys, but it's Mike here again, writing in to set the record straight. Yes, there have been several stars made from first being or having their first major role in superhero films. I can't believe I even have to say this. You can't discount actors from an entire decade of movies that made over $30 billion from theatrical alone just because the current movies aren't doing well. It's recency bias. First example that I can't believe you forgot about is Zendaya herself. Her first theatrical film, period, was the first MCU Spider-Man with Tom Holland. That's where a majority of audiences learned who she was, and she eventually became a draw for the rest of the trilogy along with Holland because she was really good in those movies. Can you name any other movies she's been in besides Spider-Man and Dune? Besides the upcoming challengers. RDJ is self-explanatory. The era of blockbusters wouldn't exist without him. Chris Pratt got his first major role in Guardians of the Galaxy and has led several billion-dollar movies since then. Ryan Reynolds revitalized his career through Deadpool, which is something I mentioned in the last email. Chrissy Hemi's Extraction 2 is on the top 10 most watched movies ever on Netflix. I mean, okay. Okay. All right. To make this quick, there's also Jennifer Lawrence was in X-Men before Hunger Games. The late, great Chadwick Boseman, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, James McAvoy was in Wanted in X-Men, Michael Fassbender, 300 in X-Men, Nicholas Hoult, Elizabeth Olsen, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and many others. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Hold on. Now, Mike, we love you.
We love you.
But as Kirk Minahan himself, Podcast Jesus, came on this show and said, sometimes you need to just say something is stupid. And Daddy is here to say this email is insane. Okay? Because number one, we are talking about creating enduring stars. We're not talking about creating stars that can open superhero movies and maybe one other movie, which is a rarity. Okay. Now, the Zendaya thing, she became a star. And as much as we hate to say this, because we are movie people, she became a star through Euphoria, not through the Spider-Man movies. Okay? What's going to make Zendaya a star is Dune 2 and possibly Challengers. All right? To say that Spider-Man made her a star is ridiculous. Yes, did it up her Q score? Absolutely. But Euphoria was the thing that really put her in the consciousness of an entire generation. All right? Chris Pratt, yes, he did open Guardians and he became a star, but the movies that he did after that, other than Jurassic World, which I guess you can give him a little credit for, but those are refillable. We will see more Jurassic Park movies and Jurassic World movies without him because it's about the dinosaurs there. Okay? Right. Now, Pat, you were going to say something.
Well, I mean, Jurassic Park, the first one was one of the biggest movies of its time, and the lead in that was Sam Neill. Great actor. We all love him. But the actors have never been the draw of a Jurassic Park movie. And in this email, Mike says he's gone on to be the lead of several other billion-dollar movies. Chris Pratt's other several billion-dollar movies are other Guardians movies and the Jurassic movies and Mario, but none of us give voice any credit when it comes to box office.
We absolutely don't. Now,
like, you have to throw voice performances out short of the cast of Shrek. I mean, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and Mike Myers are maybe the only voice actors that I give legitimate movie star box office credit for.
And I think we need to be clear as to, and I said at the beginning of this, is we're talking butts in the seats stars. We're talking,
the reason you go see a movie is because of the person. So who has a superhero movies created? I mean, I'm going to throw to Austin on this one because, you know, Daddy's here, but Uncle Austin is here too. And Uncle Austin, if Daddy's mad, you know, you're the brother, you're allowed to be mad too. Because why not? It's the family's losing control at this point, and everyone's throwing shit. So when a certain name was read, you guffawed. I think it was Jennifer Lawrence, who
that's
the one. All right, so Uncle Austin, you're allowed to throw shit around the house too. Yeah. Go for it.
So I just want to say, any friend of the pod, any emailer is a friend of mine too. So
we love him. We love Mike.
We love you, Mike. We love you.
We love you.
We love you, Mike. I do think that is pretty absurd to say, especially with Jennifer Lawrence, especially with her. Like, of all of those people, like, that list kind of went off the rails at the end when we were talking about Nicholas Hoult and Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth, people who just, like, I love all those people, but they don't have any draw, like, whatsoever.
Right.
And Jennifer Lawrence, that is so disrespectful, considering she was headlining Silver Linings Playbook to 140, American Hustle to 150. She got Joy all on her own to like 70 million or whatever.
It's a movie about hangers. It's a movie about hangers.
Yeah, and she built her entire career. Like, she had one of the best trajectories ever seen by a young star. And to attribute that to a role that she, like, actively hated, like, she hated doing those X-Men movies. She is a joke in those movies towards the end. Like, she so actively looks like, I didn't see whatever the last one was, but I grew up when those first three came out. What was it? The First Class, the one
Days
where they go back in time, and the other one,
Armageddon Time, X-Men,
miserable, and all but the first one.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't say that, like, that created her as a star.
Well, and that first X-Men movie was considered a box office disappointment. You know, the reason that they had to go back and bring in Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman and Ian McKellen in the Days of Future Past is because the first Jennifer Lawrence X-Men was considered a disappointment. What made her a movie star was the Hunger Games the following year, and then the David O. Russell run.
Yeah,
you know, there is nobody who looks at Jennifer Lawrence as Phoenix. What is the character she plays in that?
Mystique.
Mystique. There's no one who says, I think of Jennifer Lawrence and I think of Mystique. that there is
Yeah.
nobody on the planet who associates her with that role besides like a Trivial Pursuit question.
Yeah, I mean, go back to 2013, dude. I mean, I know I don't even really like American Hustle. I think that movie's kind of terrible. But like the whole talk of that movie at the time was what incredible performance she gave in it, and how
Right.
it's really funny and it's really energetic and it's a movie star performance. Like those, and she got that movie to like 150. And I know it's like an ensemble thing, but she was, I think, the big driver of that one that year.
Right.
And like that is a pure like I don't know, to attribute it to like some comic book movie, like that did not make her a star. Silver Linings Playbook made her a star. The
There,
Hunger Games, no, the Hunger Games made
The
her a
Hunger
star.
Games
Yes,
made her a
yes,
star.
yeah.
The
Silver Linings
Hunger
like
Games made her a star.
solidified it. Like she had a
Yeah.
like an Oscar dramatic comedy hit that
Yeah.
made 140 in like 2012. Like
Yeah.
that is insane. Like that number, maybe it's because it's 2024 and like that kind of movie doing that kind of numbers is so insane to me now. But like that is a movie star, not Jennifer Lawrence doing this. The only one I would kind of give an exception, I do think Pratt, Guardians kind of did make him a bigger star, but Pratt didn't really like he's had his success in those pre-branded IP. I do think the first Jurassic World, people were so goodwill for that first Guardians movie, and that seemed like such a natural follow-up. But I think Pratt's kind of been a little weird with like what his brand is, because I think he should have been more a comedy guy, but he seems to want to do more of these like military movies, more serious action stuff,
Right.
which I think is kind of where he's getting a little lost. But he still has Mario, and I think that Garfield movie is going to be huge whenever that comes out. And I
Right.
think Tom Holland, once he gets out of like streaming land,
Well, that's will he ever? Will he ever?
Yeah.
You
I don't
know?
know. He's got that Fred Astaire movie, which I think that could be a big hit. That's
Yeah.
a perfect, like, you know, he looks kind of like he doesn't really look the part, but that's a good natural extension. You know, we know he's more balletic and he's kind of more of a theater guy, and that feels like a good extension of who his star persona kind of is. Like, I know it's not 1-to-1, but you
Right.
know, that makes sense. Like Tom Holland in that role kind of makes sense when you know his background and you know him just as, you know, a theater person.
I mean, I think the most damning thing about this theory from Mike, who we love,
We love you,
Mike.
Mike.
We love
God,
you, Mike.
We love you, Mike. That's why we're doing this. It's tough love.
It's tough love. Is that he says this genre dominated for over a decade and made over $30 billion, which is true. So that genre should have produced 15 like easily identifiable, these are movie stars. These are movie stars who open other movies, you know, in the wake of their superhero stardom, who have huge careers as movie stars ahead of them. A genre that has dominated since what, 2008? You know, going on 15 years now, made all this money. We should be able to rattle off slam doink movie stars in our sleep out of that. Not trying to say Chrissy Hemme Extraction 2's
a Streamo movie
makes him a movie star. That is the most damning piece against his argument that this whole genre, you're reaching for Gal Gadot, who
oh my god,
is basically being drummed out of Hollywood at this point. You know, like she's done.
And
she's
Nicholas
done.
Hoult, who we love but couldn't
As an
open
actor.
Renfield.
Yeah. And Reynolds and RDJ, like that is not that is such a cheat using those two.
They are.
Reynolds is only
I know he was like
Deadpool.
whatever before, but like that, come on, like that's like I don't know, that does not count. That's like saying like, oh, Patrick Stewart was not a draw or a star until X-Men, or Ian McKellen was not a star until X-Men. Like, like I don't know, like not get out of here, but like, and Reynolds, like Reynolds was a star too. He had some bombs, but he had like a couple hits in there too. I think they would have figured out a different career path. Like, you know what I mean? Like they would have figured out a different avenue to kind of go down. I think Reynolds would have figured out that action comedy is his bread and butter without Deadpool. And I think RDJ probably would have gradually gone into character actor mode post Iron Man, you know, or not if Iron Man didn't exist.
Right.
Like I think these actors, to say like that these created these stars, like Evans is not I don't know. Like,
No, Chris Evans is not a butts in the seat star. He's a guy who showed up in a Knives Out movie and everybody liked his sweater. Like I
Yeah.
don't think that's being a little bit diminishing, but he is not a butts in the seats
Yeah.
guy. The one that I would maybe give that became a star because of superheroes is not even somebody that's mentioned because it did not come from this generation of MCU movies. I'm talking Hugh Jackman. Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman
okay.
was made by Wolverine, but the difference is superhero movies were not the dominant sort of movie. So he was able to then do other movies like Swordfish. He was able to do the Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie, Real Steel, that I actually really enjoyed and did pretty well. He was able to do The Last Showman, which is a movie that we look at the Greatest
Last
Showman.
Showman is like will be part 4 in the eventual series.
Well, I was doing the Last Wish. I mixed up the Puss in Boots movie with it because it did the run. It had the Greatest Showman run.
Yeah,
he had the Greatest Showman, which had one of the greatest runs of all time.
He had Les Mis.
He had Les Mis.
Perfect star character. Like Hugh Jackman in Les Mis makes so much sense. Like, you know what I mean? That's what they kind of have to branch off into, and he was allowed to do that, and a lot of these actors can't. Like, Hemsworth is never going to escape Thor.
No, because the pipeline back then was you do a superhero movie or something akin to that, and then here's all these other tunnels you can go through, all these other pipes that are lawyer movies or musicals or dramas. And what happened with the superhero just dominance is that it became one pipe. And you cannot differentiate yourself when it's just one pipe. It's hard to get out of that. And that's why that system and that way of making movies destroyed the star system for a long time. And I'm not saying Austin Butler is butts in the seat yet. I'm not saying, I think Timothée Chalamet is. I'm not saying Zendaya is, but they have a way better chance with the decisions they're making and the movies that are being made and they're able to star in than if they were going to be typecast as superheroes for the rest of their lives. I don't think Zendaya will be remembered as Mary Jane at the end of her career.
No.
But Chris Evans will be remembered as Captain America, and Chrissy Hemme, goddammit, will be fucking remembered as Thor.
Yeah.
Not as the guy from Extraction 2.
He is the absolute, and I really like him as an actor too. Like, no disrespect to Chrissy Hemme at all, if he's listening to this, and
which we know he is.
We know he is.
Yeah,
but I think he really is like the poster child of like what kind of can go wrong. You know, as much as success as the man has had, and he's great, and you know he's living everyone's dream right now. But
we lost Austin for a second, but
there he is. He's back. Uncle Austin was talking about Chrissy Hemme, and he's living everyone's dream.
We got to move off Chrissy Hemme just because of that, because that always happens to us.
Yeah, they don't create any of these stars. I think it's a trap for a lot of these younger stars. I think Florence Pugh needs to like get out of there like now, or at the very least do like another big artsy movie or something.
Amnesty for the prisoner. Amnesty.
We talked about it last week on our episode, whether it's a Kickstarter, whether it's some kind of motion we get before Congress. Like, Austin, would you be willing to testify along with the BO boys about how Florence Pugh needs to be let out of the Thunderbolts movie? That presidential, congressional, Supreme Court action. Like, I know they're not on the same page, but on this issue, let's get both sides of the aisle together to get Florence Pugh out of the Thunderbolts movie.
Absolutely.
This is an issue that unites us all.
We will march up the steps of Washington. This is a bipartisan issue as come. It's literally, we need to just get her out of there and get her into the next Greta Gerwig movie, or the next I guess maybe the one after the next Greta Gerwig movie, not the Narnia movie, or the next Ari Aster movie or something. Get her paired up with whoever is the hot young indie,
Celine Song, her follow-up to Past Lives. Let's get Florence Pugh in that.
I'll go as far as to say, presidential wise, the candidate who says, I will pardon Florence Pugh, they're going to get my vote, because that means something to me, right? So out of everything, that means something. Okay, I'd at least think about voting for whoever said that. I'm not gonna
Whoever
say
said
I'm
that.
gonna definitely vote
Yeah,
for it,
yeah,
but that would definitely get me thinking.
yeah, yeah. And you're not a political guy, so for you to
Not
even
no,
think about voting for anyone
I'm
shows the importance of this issue. You're a
I'm in
one
this.
issue voter,
I'm one issue voter, and
and
that
it's
is
Thunderbolt.
amnesty for Florence Pugh in Thunderbolts. I mean, I'm in
And
the sub mines most of the time, guys. Really, I'm underground, and it's a whole different world under there. We have our own government, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, listen, Mike, we love you. We love
yes,
you, and we thank you for this email. And
thank you.
and like,
Namaste.
namaste. Um, so listen, hey, other emailers, you know, Daddy came home and Daddy was tough, and Uncle Austin was tough today, and we were throwing shit around, and maybe, the police might be on the way right now. We don't
Mm-hmm.
know. We might have to talk to a police officer about what happened in here, but what we'll tell them is it was done with love,
Mm-hmm.
we love
and
Mike.
we love Mike, and
Eh,
superhero movies haven't created stars. I'm
yeah.
very curious about the Tom Holland thing,
Mm-hmm.
because we all Uncharted was such a great hit, and that did feel like star driven. So it is on Hollywood that he has 2 years later still not had a movie in the movie theater
Yeah.
following up on that. And I do wonder if his star power has waned from absence and waned from, being in Apple hell all these years. That's kind of, for me, the one of this MCU run that I'm most inclined to be like, okay, that could be a star because of his superhero part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But,
I think for
so
him,
much to be determined there.
he's got to follow up that Fred Astaire movie. He's got to be like Chalamet and have like a
Yeah.
1-2 punch of like something serious, vaguely Oscar fair ish. And he's got to follow up with like a family thing, like a four
Yeah.
quadrant, whether that be Uncharted 2, something like Wonka, where he can show
Yeah.
off that he's song and dance kind of guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like because he has a lot of theater training. He has a lot of balletic and musical theater training. And he, like, if he can kind of show that off in like a family thing to get his family audience back. And I know he's probably going to do another Spider-Man movie. He's going to do Uncharted 2. But if he could get like one other big hit that doesn't rely on those franchises, then I think he's great. Because I think he's really set in.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
going to be so uphill, and the fact that it's so difficult, and his, ability to become a star is being so hindered is because of that system. I mean, if he gets out and he breaks out, it's gonna be more difficult than it would be for people pre this system that was in place.
Yeah, yeah. Or even post this system, in the sense of someone like an Austin Butler, who never had to be in the MCU grind, didn't have to do his same character in 7 movies that he didn't know which movie he was in. He broke out in Elvis. He gets Dune 2. And if Bike Riders gets him an Oscar nom, I mean, he's a movie star, and he never had to put a cape on.
Real
Mm-hmm.
quick, before we like jump off this topic, because I want to make one let's get nuts prediction about a movie coming out.
I love it.
I love it.
I think Challengers is going to open to like 40 million.
Oh,
I'm not
I
even
love
kidding.
that.
Maybe that's like too wild, but like at least 30.
Yeah.
That trailer is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it plays so well in a theater, and it was put right behind a lot of showings of Dune 2 last weekend.
Yeah.
I think Zendaya is going to mobilize her fan base. That is the exact kind of movie that I think a lot of.
Here we go. Chrissy Hemme playing his tricks again.
Yeah, so Austin, he's up in Buffalo right now, but we know he's on his way to New York City, where the connection, I think, should hopefully be a lot better. So he'll probably jump back on in a second, but
Yeah.
here he is. So
Oh my God.
there you go,
Oh,
Austin.
sorry.
You were going off on challenges. Listen, we totally agree. We are so excited for the opening of that movie. It's got a trailer that has just such firepower in it.
Yeah.
And there's sex and there's tennis, and yeah, you were saying she's going to mobilize her fans, and that is something she has at the push of a button.
What she's going to do, she's got to do the Sydney Sweeney thing. Something I noticed that Sweeney was doing when Anyone But You was so popular. She was reposting on her like Instagram story people's tickets of like, so people were posting on their story, their ticket stubs and tagging Sydney Sweeney in it. And Sweeney was posting it on her story for all her followers to see. That's a big thing. Like, I think that is such a good out of the box, like marketing tactic. And I think if Zendaya can do something similar to that with challengers, oh my God, dude, it's going to inspire so many of her fans are going to do that. I think they're going to go out,
great idea.
to see it. They're going to take a picture of the stub. They're going to post it on their socials. They're going to tag Zendaya. And there's going to be a chance that Zendaya is going to see it and repost it to her story for all her millions of followers to see.
I mean, it makes me want to do that.
Where you can really take advantage of like TikTok and Instagram and just social media in general, like Twitter X, whatever. Like in this day and age, like that's how you mobilize the fan base, like your fan base specifically.
Yeah. Now, Austin, you know, just to ask you, because you're in that prime demo, you're 25 years old. And, you know, you're a gentleman, so obviously you don't have to get into detail about anything like this if you don't want to. But do you find that the people you know that are around you are ready for horniness at the theater again? Because, again, that's a superhero movies kind of killed that. I feel like people are ready to get horny. Are you and the people in your friend group and your generation, are you ready to get horny at the theaters again?
Oh, absolutely. Maybe it's because, you know, I was, you know, 10 years ago when these superhero things where there's just a peck on the cheek or whatever it is, it maybe like 10 years ago, I was like, okay, like that's fine for now. But, you know, we're a little older. We're, you know, in our 2020s now. It's not weird to see this kind of stuff in a theater anymore with people. Like I think people want something a little bit more. We've been so desensitized over the last 10 years with just chaste relationships, which were fine for those movies. Those are all ages entertainment. Like those superhero movies are ostensibly for kids. Like they're all for families and whatever. And that was nice. That was fine. But now I think we're ready for something a little bit more mature. At least people in my age group are. And I think stuff like Anyone But You and Challengers, I think is going to be such a fucking huge hit. And I cannot wait to see, especially Amazon and MGM is distributing that. And they have had nothing but just complete hits over the last like year. Like their marketing department is so good. And I think that is perfect star plus premise combo. Yes, I think horniness is back with a vengeance in the theater. Like we might see a return to like 90s Cruel Intentions style horniness.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I love that. I love hearing that. I mean, listen, I remember leaving school early, high school, to see that on opening day. With listen, I won't say the name, but with deep popcorn. And
nice.
Yeah,
someone's going to start putting these pieces together. The more pieces, like the more like clues and hints you give, the more the identity is up for sort of you know, discovery.
He's changed names over the years. There's no way you're
and appearances. He's changed appearances as well.
Yeah, just totally mutilated his face and his body, so he can't be discovered
in the name of anonymity.
Yes. All right, let's get into our top fives. Let's do it. So refresher, it's Dune 2 is the holdover, and we got Imaginary Kung Fu Panda 4, and of course, Austin's new film Cabrini are the big openers. So, Austin, would you like to go first, second, or third as the guest and movie star?
I'll go first.
All right, go for it.
Bold. This is the bold move of a star.
Yeah.
All right, so number one, I think, is going to be Kung Fu Panda 4. I think it's going to edge out Dune 2. I think it'll do around 46, 47 million for the weekend. No way it gets to 50. I think that's just way too. I would love it if it does, but that just feels like way too high of a number. But I think 2 is going to be Dune 2, like right behind it with like 44, 45. So it's going to be a sub 50% drop, but you know, that's another one. I'm like, I see people throwing out 50, and I'm like, that sounds absurd. But that would be like nothing. And then 3, I think is going to be Cabrini with like 16 million. I think this thing is going. I don't know where. I'm assuming you guys probably saw like Box Office Pro put out their weekend forecast. They got Cabrini at like 5, which is insane to me. I know, like, obviously this thing is selling well in like my neck of the woods. But, like, I'm looking over, you know, I'm bored, and I'll check Fandango, and I'll see, like, what pre-sales are like in LA, in New York, like the movie going hubs. This thing's selling really well there too. Like even in
Mm-hmm.
LA, the Burbank 16, this thing is selling really well. Like at least for like just a drama movie that I'm assuming is going to have a lot of walk-up business too. And I don't think there's no real scam going on with this like there was with Sound of Freedom. I love scams too.
We
I
love a
think they're
scam.
great.
Yeah.
Great
And
scam.
like this, I know you can't really do. There is kind of a kid angle to this movie too, where it's like support orphans and kids or whatever because she was a mother to all the orphans or whatever. But there's not really. I think this is just going to be all walk up business. It's going to be all good pre sales. Like I don't. I think word of mouth is going to spread really well for it too. I'm recommending people to go see it, and so I'm going 16 million for Cabrini.
But can I stop you
Going to
1 second before your number 4, Austin? Because you were commenting on Cabrini selling everywhere. For our YouTube watchers, this is tomorrow, Friday night, 7 p.m. at the New York City Lincoln Square Theater. This is Cabrini showing. All of these
Wow.
seats full. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
watching this on YouTube, what you're seeing is basically about 7 or 8 seats in a big auditorium in New York
Yeah.
City left. A
So it's
pretty
not
much
just the stacks,
sold
too.
out screening. 7
And that,
p.m. sold out, almost sold out for Cabrini.
Austin, you nailed it. The fact that this is in New York, based in New York, is going to get at least this coast of elites and the people in the stacks and your plain billies and your earth dogs. So that is why people are sleeping on Cabrini.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit more religious leaning for the stacks, but I think the quality of it, too. I mean, it's got a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, that means a lot to, I think, the coastal elites, the people
Yep.
who, are going to think twice before just walking into anything. So I think there's a lot working for this movie. Like I said, the trailers are great. Marketing's been good. It's been savvy with the International Women's Day opening weekend. It just really well done from everybody on that one. 4, I think, is going to be imaginary. I think this thing opens like 8, 8.5. I don't see this getting to double digits. 5, probably Bob Marley with like 5, 5.5.
Love it.
And yeah, that's my top 5.
Great predictions. So, Clayton, would you like to go next, or do you want to go last?
I will let you go next if you'd like. The Italian
Sure.
in the building, who I want to hear your take on Cabrini. You
All right.
deserve the floor.
All right, so here we go. Italian Stallion going first, and I am going Dune 2 and then Kung Fu Panda 4.
Okay.
I think Dune 2 holds on. I think it makes about 44, 45, a really good hold, and I think Kung Fu Panda 4 makes like 42 million. So I'm predicting a photo finish, but I
Yeah.
do think it's going to be Dune 2 holding on to be number 1. And I'm not predicting Kung Fu Panda to do poorly. I just think that it's going to make about what the last one made, not any better. So number 1, Dune 2. Number 2, Kung Fu Panda 4. I'm agreeing with Austin. Cabrini is real, and the Italians are going to stand up this weekend, and the people who hate Italians are going to stand up, and there'll probably be some fist fights and baseball bats flying in the theaters at Cabrini, but it'll be a good time. That's number 3. Yeah, I think this could break double digits. It does have the pay it forward scam going for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be as widely publicized as the Sound of Freedom and, as mobilizing, but I think that's going to help. So that's number 3. I'm going to go number 4, Bob Marley.
Nice.
And then number 5, Imaginary. And I'm sure Brett of the New Flesh is listening to this and he's furious because, horror always wins. But I think this is going to be a bad weekend for horror because I think the Gorehounds are getting their horror fix from the Sandworms of Dune 2. And this Chauncey the Bear is just going to be a total flop. So I think that's number 5. So that's my top 5. Clayton, take us home with your top 5.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kung Fu Panda 4, and I'm going to go 45 here. I think that is more than the third one. It's not going to be super breakout. I don't see 50s. So 45 for Kung Fu Panda 4. Dune Part 2, I'm going to say I think this makes 42.
Okay.
I think it's going to be very close. Again, the PLFs are going to win the day here. I mean, put me down number 3, Cabrini. I'm
We're
going
all
to join the
doing
group.
it.
Hell yeah.
I think it makes double digits now. I'm a little bit less hype on it. I do think it's probably going to make 11, which is still great and higher than they're giving it in a lot of places because of this walk-up business and the strong Italian, group that's going to come out. And I can't go with you on Bob Marley over
Mhm.
Imaginary because I still think Imaginary is going to have the teens in the aisles doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to be 8.6. It's
Okay.
not going to go double digits. I do think, I think more people do know about Cabrini than know about Imaginary at this point.
Wow.
Imaginary has had I watched the YouTube videos and I'm not getting served this trailer.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's going to see Imaginary Lionsgate. They don't pay for ads. And
Yeah.
then number 5 is going to be Bob Marley, One Love, and I think it's going to make 4.2, 420. Here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's make that happen. Yeah, I'm so excited for this weekend at the box office because that fight for number 1. I mean, we all basically have it as maybe if not a coin flip, it is a battle. Even both of you having Kung Fu Panda 4 at number 1, where you're placing Dune 2 is right there. So it's going to be a nice battle for number 1. Very exciting, guys. So Austin, thank you for joining us. I mean, just amazing insight, of course. And you've got Cabrini in theaters this weekend. You've got Slap Straight is streaming right now on Tubi. Anything else that we should be excited about? Any other projects that you have in the works that you're circling? Are you circling anything, let's say?
So not quite circling anything right now, but I'm always kind of keeping my eye out for anything. I got a couple upcoming projects that are coming out that can't quite talk about just yet,
Oh, I
but
love
a couple of cool things here and there, a couple of cool commercial work. Go check out my IMDb if you're interested in anything like that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on again. It's always a good time to talk to you guys.
Of course. We call him wannabe oh boy Austin, but Austin Gallego. Check out his IMDb, and if you've got a cool project, listen. This is the guy. Young Hollywood is taking over, and Austin is right on the cusp of that. So very exciting.
Now,
it's going to be a real we knew him when moment. Someday.
I was just going to go there. We're going to put you on the spot, Austin. Howard Stern always does this when he talks about Paul Giamatti, great actor Paul Giamatti. If Paul Giamatti was going to win an Oscar, and hopefully he wins this year, probably not going to happen, but it could happen. Howard Stern is always like, he's got to thank me. He's got to thank me. Mm-hmm. We're not saying you have to thank us. We're asking if you would, when you are on that stage, and your mind is racing, and you're trying to think of all your loved ones. Can you spare a moment to call out the BO Boys and thank us? Is that something you could say you will do?
You will be the first people I mention. Not even kidding. It'll be you, my parents, God.
Right.
The best.
Yeah. And then, whoever your plus one is at the time, you'll consider. Yeah. But you'll probably forget the name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very exciting. Very exciting. So also exciting, of course, is our YouTube channel. If you're only listening to podcasts, you're not getting the whole story. You would have missed when I held up a phone showing how many seats Cabrini had sold for a Lincoln Square showing on Friday night. So watch us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter X and TikTok. Wannabe Senior Intern Christopher killing it with all the vertical videos and the clips there. Of course, Wannabe Junior Intern Jack has brought back the Substack. He is going to be writing up a storm this weekend covering this Kung Fu Panda Dune battle at the box office. So you got to read the Substack with Jack. Of course, email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. We love getting emails. We loved the email that we got from Mike.
We love Mike.
And he brought Daddy out. And he may have gotten Daddy thrown in the clink for a night, but it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Mike sending an email to theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. So thank you, Mike. And of course, everyone email us, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And
Pat, the live show.
And of course, the live show. We've got our live show in LA, October 8th is going to be Joker weekend. We'll be talking about Joker 2. That's at the Yard Theater in Los Angeles. And we're still working on lining up dates and venues for shows in New York City and in Boston. Listeners are ready, reaching out. We had a listener, wannabe oh boy, who emailed us about how we have to do Boston. I think that was, of course, Chris, wannabe oh boy Chris. Thank you for email about a Boston bid. We got an email from with listeners giving us advice on some venues to check out in New York and Boston. So it's going to be big. Send in your bids from cities about getting the BO Boys tour into a theater near you.
And that was Jordan, wannabe oh boy Jordan, who talked about a New York City venue to
Oh,
look
thank
into.
you, Jordan. Thank you, Jordan. And yeah, so the tour, we'll have a lot of information. That's going to be in the fall, so we'll chat about that over the summer.
And will there be a pay it forward scam? Who knows? I mean, maybe. I mean, we might not be able to actually set up a website for it, but you could always buy someone a ticket who you know lives in LA.
I mean, we may have to take a meeting with Angel Studios to see if they could license their proprietary pay it forward technology to the BO Boys. I mean, we've talked their scam up enough that I feel like, give us one on the arm.
Yeah.
Let us use some pay it forward. Guys, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else to say.
There can't possibly be anything left to say.
Nothing.
Except for, until next time,
we'll
smell you at the